Check 1, 2.
Go! Curious about real estate? Yes! Then you've come to the right place. Get the knowledge you need. Get over the fear and get started. This is the Michael Quarles Real Estate Show with your host, Michael Quarles.
Hello, everybody. Michael Quarles with podcast number 82. Today we have 5 questions sent in by real estate investors like yourself who had a question and needed an answer. And remember, if you have a question, send it to bsffacademy.com. One more time, support at bsffacademy.com. Here we go. Question number 1. Once under contract, how do you approach renegotiating a lower price? Is there a specific document that you use to affect the price change once the seller agrees verbally? Let's look at the second question first. Yes, we do. We call it an addendum. So we have an addendum that we fill out that lowers or changes or raises or however we're changing our contract. We have a form. It's called an addendum form. Sometimes if you don't have that addendum, your closing company, your closing attorney, your escrow company, they'll prepare that document for you. It has to be signed by both and agreed to by both parties. Back to your first question. How do you approach negotiating a lower price? Now, got to be real careful on this, guys. We're not approaching people for a lower price unless we find something out about the property that causes us to say, hey, we now have to offer you a lower price because of something we found. It has to be something that the seller did not disclose to us. So just if we found it because they disclosed it, we're not going to go back to them and ask them for a lower price. We should have just done our due diligence in the first place and mitigated that whatever we would have to have done to cover those costs. But if we found something that the seller didn't negotiate with us, we'll just go back to the seller and absolutely start the dialogue. Now that we have found this to be the case, or in some cases, the easiest one is we want our properties free of tenants when we buy them. If we find that the seller can't get the tenant out, or the seller did not realize that their property management company had the tenant under a lease instead of a month to month, and that's going to cause us to incur several months of holding costs, then at that point we'll go back to the seller and say, hey, you are obligated to have the tenant out. The tenant can't get out, and now we have holding costs during that period of time. We have to mitigate those costs. So at that point, we just start up a negotiation process with them. Again, no big deal. Question number 2. Are there any other terms you have had a lot of success negotiating after the initial agreement is made? Yeah, a lot of times we'll get seller financing afterwards, after the seller has said, no, I only want cash. We'll go back in and renegotiate seller financing, sub-2 financing. I would say half the time, and it's pretty common to do that. First of all, when we meet them, or not meet them, but talk to them for the first time, my Alexes and my Ryans are not negotiating terms. They're only negotiating cash transactions. The negotiation of terms requires my third-tier negotiator to step in and find out where terms will actually benefit the seller. And that's one of the nice things about having the recordings recorded. When the seller says, they need the money for tax reasons because they know they're going to have a tax liability on the sale of the transaction. Well, that's obviously an advantage to the seller if we do a term transaction on that. So where the seller does sell a carryback, they're not taxed on the money until they receive it. So we can draw out their tax liability for them. It might be beneficial to them. So, we can always negotiate afterwards.
Thanks for listening to Buy, Sell, Fix, Flip. We'll be right back. Are you running out of leads? It's time you tried Yellow Letters at yellowletters.com. Get motivated seller leads through yellow letters, postcards, zip letters, typed professional letters, greeting cards, door hangers, and business cards. Yellow Letters is a full-service marketing company created with your success in mind. Get the personal attention you need to get your direct mail campaign started, and get in touch at yellowletters.com.
And we are back in 3, 2, 1.
Question number 3. When sending marketing to multifamilies using the same material as when sending to single families, would you change the word house in I want to buy your house to building or apartment or house, or just leave it alone? Maybe change it to word property. I don't really think it matters in the big scheme of things. Property, house, whatever. They're going to see cash, sell, property, house, whatever. If they're in the mood to sell something and they know we're real estate buyers, that's all that really matters. And, we're marketing to them, and this happens more than times than not, especially with people that have multiple units, is we'll be marketing to them for one unit because we dedupe the list. We're not going to send someone who has 25 rentals, 25 letters, so we're going to dedupe the list. One of those is going to show up. We're going to market for that property. That may not be the property they're interested in selling. They're just going to call and say, hey, I have this other thing over here, this triplex. Do you guys want to buy triplex? Absolutely. So I'm not saying it's a big deal. I know the marketing pieces that we use work, and why deviate from something that works. Now, I'm always deviating a little, and I don't call it deviating, I call it testing. But let me test on my dollar and not on yours. It's somewhat easier for you to not to spend money testing where I am going to spend money testing. Question number 4. I've been working with the probate lead for 3 or 4 months now. Seller is the father of a deceased son. Seller is very motivated and wants to sell the property, but every time we talk about it, he says it's still up in probate. It's now in the very early stages of foreclosure. My question is, should I go ahead and put this under contract, get the father and I to agree to a price? It's my thought to go ahead and lock this up with a contract if he's willing. Is that the right move? The son passed away 14 months ago. Absolutely. If you can get a contract, get a contract. I mean, here's what you can't do. If you don't have a contract, you can't buy a house. If you have a contract, well, there's a pretty good chance you can buy a house. So let's get it under contract. Now, especially if we're in foreclosure, and I understand that dad's going through all kinds of emotional stress and strain right now and all that kind of stuff, and I appreciate all that. Let them know that you're going to take care of the situation, and no parent wants to live longer than their child. I mean, everybody knows that. So the father's dealing with a lot of grief. But at the end of the day, this can't be your only deal that you're doing. And if you're squeezing this one so hard that you're just squeezing it, and squeezing it and squeezing it and squeezing it and eyeballs are popping out, well, ask yourself that. Are you squeezing it too hard? If you are, do some more marketing. And the deals are coming at us so fast. We don't have to, hold on to something so tightly that we smother it to death. And sometimes we can do that with deals that we have or we think we have. So, I mean, if you have plenty of deals, just give this one the time it needs and go give those others the time that they need. But if you don't have plenty of deals, put some more mail in the mail. Start doing some cold greeting, some cold calling, those kinds of things. Get some deals going so you can have some wealth. Question number 5. If the insurance and taxes are all included in an existing mortgage payment, could this cause complications after the close of escrow? No, I think that's great. I think for a lot of people, if they're not included, that could cause problems for you after the close of escrow because you forget to pay them. And, all of a sudden you have this big tax bill or now you have insurance you got to pay for. Yeah, if it's a PITI loan, that's a great thing. And, don't try to get out of it. The only time, anytime we have mortgage insurance, because, whatever it is, the person who was borrowing had to have a mortgage insurance. We want to get out of that one if we could, but the other 4, just leave them all in place. And keep buying the house. I don't see any issues with that one at all. Absolutely nothing at all on that one. That's a quick 5 questions. I apologize. I just didn't know anything else to say. I apologize on that one. Let's talk a little bit about the forum that we've got going on. Some of you are using it. I appreciate it. I really do appreciate that. And keep using it, and we'll make that thing into something good. And I appreciate you. Until next time, you guys take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Michael Quarles Real Estate Show. Get more info and stay in touch at michaelquarles.com.